Hello humans! What's up? I'm Alexa. If you are new to my channel and haven't seen my videos yet, I will be talking about Disney. Okay, so if you have never seen any of my videos, I did the Disney College program back in 2016. I was on Spring Advantage, so that means I was there from like January to August, and I was in the role of full service food and beverage. Okay, so if you're familiar with the Disney College program, you know that there is a wide range of roles you could be accepted for if you were to do the program. So anything from attractions to merchandise, custodial, full service food and beverage, quick service, character attendant, character performer, front desk, bell service, bippity boppity boutique, photopass photographer. I wanted to make this video because I realized that there's not many videos about this role. I want to say the most popular roles, I could be totally wrong, but I think the most popular roles are merchandise and attractions. I feel like a lot of times I see lots of acceptances for those roles. I could be totally wrong, it could be different now, I have no idea. But when I was accepted for full service food and beverage, I met maybe 3 or 4 other people on the Facebook page at the time that I was like looking for roommates. I met like not even 10 people who had that role. Quick service food and beverage is also a popular one, but I was like looking on YouTube for like advice in the role, what it's like on the role, like I had no idea. If you do get accepted, or if you're even just thinking about putting full service food and beverage on as an interested role for yourself, I figured it might be helpful to kind of like get some insight about it. So I have a lot of food service experience. I worked at Uno Chicago Grill when I was 17. It wasn't my first job, but it was like my first like real job because I used to work at an after school program for like 2 hours a week. I was a hostess. Then I worked at Panera Bread and I was a cashier. And it was like, if you think about it, it's like Uno's was full service, Panera was quick service. So, so I had those 2 restaurants under my belt. Then I got a job at my local hotel. It was like a food runner. I was like there for Sunday brunches, and the manager was like, oh, if this works out for you, maybe I'll put you in our pub and you can be a server. I kept both jobs for like a really long time, even after I got put in the pub. But after I got put in the pub, I saw like how much better my paychecks were, and like no offense to Panera or like any places like that, like I absolutely loved working there. I met my boyfriend there, I made some really great friends, I had a great experience working for Panera, but I didn't like how much extra work you had to do. I got kind of spoiled once I started working at the hotel. So when I applied for the college program that I did get accepted to, I had put out I was interested in the full service food and beverage. And so when I got my acceptance for that, I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like, I was happy that I got the Disney College program, but I was also at the point where I kind of wanted to get away from food service. And I was like, dang it, I should have said I was really interested in attractions or a role that like you can only do in Disney. And so when I saw that I got food service, I was like, if I stayed working at my hotel for these 8 months, I would be making so much more money than I would working for Disney. And I didn't exactly know what I was going to be doing as full service food and beverage, but I knew I wouldn't be getting tipped. And I was like, dang, like I make so much money on my tips. Like I don't want to give that up. But then it's like, it's Disney. So like, come on. So yeah. So I went on YouTube and I watched so many vlogs, but nobody really talked about this role. And so I went into it kind of blindly. I know now they call full service food and beverage, they call it Cedar. So like on the application, I don't think I even saw like the full service food and beverage. It was just Cedar. And everybody knows what that means. And I'm so glad they changed that because that would have made like way more sense to me back then. My pizza's ready. I'll be right back. I got my pizza. I got my pizza. I got my pizza. So when I was on my program, I worked at Hollywood Studios at the Sci-Fi Dine-In. And if you're not familiar with that restaurant, It's kind of like down by where Streets of America used to be. It's like near Star Tours. And it's a themed restaurant. It's themed like a 1950s drive-in movie, which is so cool. And me being a film major, when I found out that was my location, I was so excited. I was like, I'm in Hollywood Studios. Being a seater means you are pretty much a hostess. I would switch between being like the seater and the greeter. The greeter, the person at the podium, would be checking in the guests. So the guest will be like, hey, like, I have a reservation under Alexa, party of 4, and they'd be like, oh, okay, and they'll check you in, but you still have to wait a couple of minutes. And I noticed this is how it is with a lot of park restaurants. Like, Be Our Guest is like this. Be Our Guest won't even let you pass their gates into the restaurant until your table is ready. So I feel like if you're like a Disney regular or you've eaten at Disney restaurants before, you should kind of just expect like a 5-10 minute wait for your reservation. But a lot of people would get upset about that. And so after the greeter checked in a party, it would go into the restaurant. So the computer that the greeter had was the same. It had the same program, and it was like a screen sharing thing with the assigner. So, assigner was in the restaurant, and they'd be walking around the restaurant with like an iPad, and they'd just have it and be like, okay, that table's clean, check it off. They'd see like if a party was checked in or not, and they'd be like, oh, okay, like there's a party of 4 waiting for a table, and this table is getting up soon, it's only going to be a few minutes. And then when the assigner sees that a table's clean, they just kind of click it, and then a ticket pops up at the podium. And then that was my job. My job was to take that ticket, which was the reservation of that party, and I would call it. I'd be like, Alexa, party of 4, and if everybody's there, I would be like, okay, let's come on down. And okay, so this card has pictures of our tables, and we had like a couple of these at the restaurant, and we would show guests and be like, this is like a booth car, and this is a TC, which is a table car, and like you can see the differences. Like the booth one has like 3 rows, some of them had 2 rows, but it would fit 2 people each. And that's typically what people expected they would be getting when they came to Sci-Fi. And then when they got something like this, they were pretty upset. Table car is literally like a typical table. It's just you got like, it's shaped like a car. It's like you're sitting in a car. But most guests, especially kids, want this car. Like they want the booths. They want the experience of eating dinner in a car. And so like these cars, it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but like they're booths, but there's like a table on the edge, and it's a really small table. Like I've eaten here a couple of times, and like say you have like an appetizer and an entree, so you have like a couple of dishes, like it's really a tight fit. Then in the back of the restaurant, you have what we call saucers, flying saucers, whatever we want to call it, but pretty much it's a picnic bench. Like, you have literally those little stools and the table, and it fits 4 people. And so this is what our walk-ins would get. So, reservation, walk-in. So, I'm sure you can imagine that a lot of people would come in expecting reservation seating, and they get walk-in seating. I had a little spiel. I wonder if I can remember it.
Is this your first time here? Well, welcome! My name is Alexa, and I am going to be taking you back in time to the 1950s in Hollywood Boulevard's drive-in movie theater.
And then we'd kind of like be walking down the hallway, and you can like, the doors open, so you can like see the theater, and usually kids and adults are just like, wow, that's so cool. And then I'd start like walking them to their table, and I'd be like, here you're gonna be watching 45 minutes of clips from the 1950s. And I'd seat them, I'd put their menus in front of them, and I'd be like, all right, enjoy. I think I said something like more theme-like when I left, but I can't remember. Yeah, so you have the greeter, the assigner, and then the seater. And it's just kind of like a circle. Sci-Fi used to have a pin board, and I loved standing under the umbrella, just like holding it. And it sounds boring, but like for an hour, you meet like the most interesting people, because people are waiting for their reservation, so like a lot of times they sit outside because there's not a lot of seating inside. You get people who are just like walking through the park that stop by and look at the pins you have. So I think that was one of my favorite things because I just loved talking to people. And I mean, it was so much fun seating too. It does get repetitive. I mean, I think it was a lot of fun, but it's nice to have options of different things you can be doing in your role. So if you end up getting the role as seater on your college program, it is so much fun. Sci-Fi was my main location, but I was deployed for a few weeks, and during that time, I was working at Trattoria, which is an Italian restaurant on the boardwalk, and it's beautiful, the food is amazing, but it was very different than Sci-Fi because it didn't really have that special like park theme that Sci-Fi did. This was an Italian restaurant and like Italian music, and you could like the kitchen was like in the dining room, like you could see them cooking. It was a lot like Bertucci's, only fancier. I really loved it there, but it was a lot slower, and I didn't like the costume as much. Sci-Fi had a blouse and a skirt and a petticoat, an apron, and a sweater. And it was the most comfortable costume ever. I absolutely loved it. Trattoria was like more basic. I just thought I looked really awkward. For restaurants, I just worked at Sci-Fi and Trattoria, but if you are familiar with the Writer's Stop, which used to be right next door to Sci-Fi, they changed it on my program to Sci-Fi's Lounge, and pretty much it was still a merchandise location, but they took seaters from Sci-Fi and had us working in there. It was like a trial kind of thing. Pretty much I had a white puffy hat, a dark blue shirt, black pants, or you could wear black shorts. And the yellow bow tie. How could I forget? It was a funny costume. But anyways, that's my story. I hope all my rambling made some sort of sense and it wasn't just rambling. But if you have any other questions at all about the role, please feel free to comment and I will be happy to respond and help you any way I can. For now, I hope you have a magical day.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Life isn't all that grim.
Oh,
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. What do?
we swim.
Right!